Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the DC Multiverse Collect and Connect Killer Croc Batman figure. This is the Batman Reborn. Is it Reborn? Rebirth? What's the official terminology here? Reborn, I was right. Dick Grayson Batman. And I know what you're thinking right off the bat. This is going to be an excellent figure. Mattel has never done a bad Batman figure in the Multiverse line. They're always good. And you're definitely wrong, and you apparently have no idea what you're talking about. Because they have been notoriously terrible at this line, and this figure is a great example of how bad they can get without even trying very hard. It seems it just comes to them very naturally at this point. And it's kind of impressive, honestly speaking. But I'm not posing him like that for a funny joke or anything like that. It's broken. It came broken right out of the box, and we'll get into that. It's not even the kind of thing I can break on my own. Like, it's not one of those things where, I broke it right out of the box. They're bad quality control. No, you probably just broke your figure, you doofus. This isn't one of those cases. Trust me, I'm a professional. Anyway, it's a turd, and we're going to talk about it, so let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 6 3/4 inches to the top of his ear tip thingies, which puts him at closer to 6 and, let's say, 5/8 to the top of his head, which makes him just about... We'll go 17 centimeters to the head, 17 and a half, give or take, to the top of the ear things. Just for a quick scale comparison, if he can stand straight up for a minute, hopefully he will. There he is. That's the Multiverse figure. Here's the DCSH Batman, which is basically the same thing as DCUC, just a higher level of detail. So you can see he's definitely a little bit bigger than even this guy, which is already a little bit too big. And here he is up against a Marvel Legends figure, just so that you have an idea of scaling for your display purposes. And you're probably wondering, am I going to make a bunch of jokes about Dick? That's his name, it's not me being vulgar. And the answer is, I don't know. I may edit them all out, I may censor myself as I'm talking, because it can easily get beyond my control if I go down that route. So we'll see. I will start off by saying, though, this is a very flaccid figure. It's, you can see, there's just nothing firm about this guy. Anyway, okay, so he is, aesthetically speaking, a mess. It is no different than most of your DC Multiverse figures. The plastic quality is typical. It's a little bit shiny, but that's, you get that for most of the domestic figures these days. Not really, but Hasbro and Mattel do that, so I'm not going to even worry about that. I will say there's two things that stand out about this guy, which are nicely done. I really like the Bat logo. They nailed it. It's excellent. We're going to start off with the excellent right here. Okay, look at that. Wonderful paint job. Perfectly opaque, perfectly smooth, perfectly edged in there nicely. Lovely. Very nicely done. Second thing I want to point out, and this is me trying to be nice, the location of the shoulders on the torso and the neck on the torso, pretty darn good. You can see the shoulders are back from the neck, which is exactly how it should be, and that does give them a nice look from the side. A lot of the Hasbro figures do push the arms all the way forward and they look like they're hunched, so that's pretty good. And that is unfortunately where the good stuff stops. This figure is all around pretty terrible. The paint job is not great. All the places where his boots need to be painted or his gloves need to be painted, those are pretty sloppy. This sculpt is just all kinds of messed up. We've already talked about this sculpt a little bit before, but it's just terrible. It's so bad. The anatomy is just, he looks emaciated. He looks really, really skinny and anorexic, and it's not good. And I know some people have said throughout the years, well, it's the Dick Grayson Batman, he's supposed to be skinnier, and yeah, maybe in some artwork he's a little bit trimmer than Batman. Never does he look like this unless it's one of those like real stylized pieces of artwork where he's really, really thin and big-feeted, which is what he is here, and big-headed, and it's not meant to be that stylized artwork, so that doesn't count. It's a faulty argument. This is just a terrible, terrible superhero sculpt, or sculpt in general. Look how long the shoulder section is. I mean, I know that the shoulders come down between the bicep area, but that is just not well sculpted. It's terrible. Very terrible. The head is big and goofy looking. It's a terrible sculpt for the face. There's the face. It looks so just amateurish. Everything about this is amateurish. The feet are humongous compared to the legs. The legs are super skinny. and malnourished looking. The only thing this guy's lacking is like a soy latte and a selfie where he's got his mouth wide open for no apparent reason. It's just, he does not look at all like a superhero. Doesn't look good. The cape on this guy is about the most narrow cape I've ever seen, and I searched and searched and searched for images of the Dick Grayson Batman to see if he's supposed to have a smaller cape than Batman, and almost every single image, in fact, had the cape drooping over the shoulders. This doesn't even cover the shoulder blades barely. It's kind of a cool material, I guess, but God, this thing is bad. Aesthetically speaking, it's not good at all. We do have an alternate head. I'll include that briefly, even though we'll talk about it in a minute. It is aesthetically awful as well. It looks nothing like Dick Grayson has ever looked, as far as I can tell. I couldn't even find any. Like, I thought maybe I missed an iteration of Dick Grayson where he looked like this. I Googled and Googled and Googled, and I couldn't find it. And this looks terrible. It's a terrible sculpt, terrible paint job. Aesthetically speaking, this figure gets a 3 out of 10. It is really, really, really bad. As far as accessories go, as I mentioned, we have the head. So we have the cowled head, which is not good. The paint job's terrible on the face, and the sculpt is only okay. We have the uncowled head, which just looks like a dollar store figure. Terrible. The only good thing about it is the shading and the hair. And of course, with that head, we get a cowl that goes down around his neck, and that's okay. So accessory-wise, we don't even have a batarang. We just have a terrible unmasked head. So accessory-wise, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10. It's terrible. And now, it's time to talk about the articulation. So we might as well just talk about this issue right here. It came that way out of the box. If I hold it together, you can hear parts rattling around inside. I didn't do that. I did not break the abdominal crunch while unpackaging it. It's just bad QC. Bad QC. So for the head, we do have a hinge, which is the tiniest little hinge I think I've ever seen on a neck. Look at that. There is a hinge in there. It does have some range. It's not altogether terrible, but why make it that small? I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. But the head does move forward and back a little bit because of it. Not much, and it does rotate. And that's it. For the shoulders, you can get them up better than horizontal. That's all right. But look at that. Look at that sculpt. How? How do you do that and call yourself a professional sculptor? Like, if you're working for a company and they ask you to sculpt somebody who's got articulated arms and you come up with this, what the heck is that? Whose arms are connected to only part of their shoulder? That's not how arms work. It's just so ridiculous looking. It's so bad. And that's not to mention the skin sleeve that goes around the shoulder. This thick piece of plastic, relatively speaking, that just sticks out and looks weird. Like, this looks like a dollar store toy or something from the 90s. This would have been advanced for the 90s. By today's standards, this is terrible. So you technically get the range there. It's okay. We have a single jointed elbow. Like I said, advanced for the 90s. By today's standards, terrible. Not even really well put together. It just kind of loses all detail around the lower arm. This just goes from biceps to tube. Spaghetti arms. Thick, fat spaghetti arms. And then you have a wrist swivel and a hinge. I did those backwards, but you saw it. And he has gripping hands, by the way. Only gripping hands. No punching hands, just gripping hands. Nothing to grip. I'll tell you what he can grip, never mind. Floppy ab crunch. Waist twist is a waist twist. Oh, by the way, aesthetically speaking, he has no crotch. Well, I guess I should say that he only has a crotch. He only has the special part down here. No hip or anything to go above that. His trunks are essentially a Speedo without part of the material, if that's even possible. They managed to make him look worse than any superhero has ever looked while wearing trunks. It's just, where did his groin go? His hips. He has no pelvis or hips. It's just belt and special place. I don't know what happened there. Again, how anybody who's a professional can pull something like this out is beyond me. I don't get it. I'm just some schmuck sculpting things, and I understand that it shouldn't look like that. Here's the thing they do nail, though, from an articulation standpoint. Hasbro doesn't seem to understand how hips work. These guys got the hips going all the way full on splits. Perfectly well articulated, and no huge gapping or anything. So yeah, you can do that. He should have like material up here that wouldn't change this, but functionally it does work. It's ugly, but it does work. They do go forward pretty well, so that's okay. Thigh swivel is fine. Double jointed knees are fine. And then for the ankle, it does go pretty far back and really far forward. Something Hasbro doesn't seem to do either. And should there be, there's not. There's no ankle rocker on this guy. I thought there wasn't on Red Hood, but I can see in there on this one, there definitely isn't. Red Hood did have it, this guy does not. So articulation wise, this guy gets a 6 out of 10, assuming yours doesn't arrive broken. So time for my final thoughts on this figure. Why does it exist? It shouldn't. There's no reason to make this. You clearly weren't interested in making a good action figure when you made this. Even if it wasn't broken, there's almost nothing good about this figure other than those tiny details I tried to salvage from this guy, like the nicely painted logo. I guess the gold's a nice gold for the belt, kind of, but the sculpt is so soft on the belt you don't really even notice the bat logo on there. This figure is absolutely terrible. There's no point in buying it. There's nothing good enough about this to warrant spending even $10, other than the Build-A-Figure part maybe. And to me, that's not a good enough reason. So don't buy this. Final verdict is 3 out of 10. It's really, really, really bad. And I managed to get through this entire video only making a couple of dick jokes in the very beginning when I said I wasn't going to make any dick jokes. And I can say dick all I want in this video because that's the character's name, and nobody can say I'm being vulgar. In any other video, I can't do that. So, dick. Dick, dick, dick. There you go. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up if you did like it. And if you didn't like it, well, that's probably on you. It's not really my fault. You clicked on it. It's voluntary. You shouldn't have watched it if you didn't like it. But if you did and you made it this far, well, hey, I got what I needed out of you. So, I do have new videos up just about every day, though. So you might want to come back, do it again, and keep collecting.